Welcome back, everybody, to episode 3 of
It's
the No
episode
Sauce
4, dummy.
Rewind. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 4 of the No Sauce podcast with John and Kyle. I'm going first tonight because Kyle's a wanker. Oh, man.
Well played.
What a day. It is been a long day, my friend.
Did you see that Browns and Steelers game? It was a freaking blizzard.
Dude, I am not looking forward to the winter coming. It's going to be something, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good game tonight. Unfortunately, I didn't make the right call. So I was in heated talks earlier today, making what I would believe to be, at least in my history of fantasy football, a pretty big trade. I figured I would start off by sharing that tonight because you know what? Last week we complained a lot about college football playoffs and the rankings and all that kind of stuff. Still, I've got a couple links, some things that I wanted to bring up, some more evidence of why it's all rigged. But before I got into that, I wanted to share what I did today. So in my league, 7-4, there's 5 of us that are tied for first place. We're all like a 99% lock to make the playoffs, but I'm on a 2-week skid. Okay. I got to right the ship. And between last week and this week, I've only had one real running back. And that's been a major problem. Last week, Bucky Irving was out. This week, Alvin Kamara is out. Based on my league, there's not a whole lot of options out there. So I decided to throw out some trades to some people this week, and nobody bit. And one person did reach out to me for a trade, offered me nobody, and they wanted my best wide receivers. Nothing that would actually help my team. And it's like, what the heck are you doing? So I nixed that one. But then I found one guy who had 5 or 6 different running backs on his team and had no help in the wide receiver spot. So we went back and forth, and we settled on I'm going to get James Cook and who was the receiver, and Michael Pittman Jr. And I'm sending to him Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, and Josh Downs. I don't need all of them. They're sitting on my bench right now behind DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. Like, odds of me starting those guys over them, probably not high, but I need another running back. I know James Cook is out this week, but this is a play for the playoffs. So thought I'd share that with you. Thoughts?
I don't know what your league is. Is it a 12-team league? Is it a PPR league? Does it,
12-team league, PPR league. But here, maybe I'll read off what my new starting lineup would be, and you tell me if it was a good move. Patrick Mahomes, starting quarterback. Alvin Kamara, RB1. RB2 would be James Cook. For running back, wide receiver, got Justin Jefferson. The next is a wide receiver. I got DK Metcalf. For a wide receiver tight end, I got Travis Kelce. My tight end spot, I got George Kittle. And then defense and kickers for me have kind of fluctuated this year because, based on the matchups and whatnot.
How did you get all that in a 12-team league? That's either you're drafting with idiots or I don't know what's going on in your league because you should have never gotten that team. No chance.
Dude, I'm telling you, I lucked out with my receiving core.
Like, but again, the fact that you got Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce, what is wrong with
George Kittle
in your league?
And George Kittle. So Kittle, I drafted Mahomes, I drafted Jefferson, I drafted Metcalf, I drafted Kamara, I drafted Kelce, and I drafted Kittle.
Yeah, you're playing with a bunch of bums. If that's what your lineup is, you're playing with a bunch of bums.
Well, you have to understand though, it was a auction draft.
Oh, so it wasn't you paid for those guys. I get it. I get it.
I did. I paid, okay. But again, I handcuffed myself at the beginning of the
You
season.
needed to establish that it's an auction draft, not that it was a regular snake draft.
Still clip that last piece where you call them bums, and let's post it, and I'll put it in my fantasy league, and we'll see what they say.
I'm dead serious though. I mean, but I said that before you said it was an auction draft. Now when you say it's an auction draft,
no, I don't care. Let's take the clip out of context.
I can take that back because
it.
you said it was an auction draft after the fact,
I know,
which changes
I know.
my whole mindset on that because you're the bum who spent all that money, so you don't have any depth on your bench.
Oh no, I had depth on my bench for wide receivers, but not running backs. So my bench again, I've got Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, Josh Downs, all
but
three.
You just traded all those guys.
I did. I just traded them all away because I'm making a run at the playoffs.
Now that you traded them.
So my bench now would be Matthew Stafford, Demario Douglas, wide receiver for the Patriots, Taysom Hill, and Amir Abdullah is my backup running back.
Yeah,
and potentially
in the next couple of weeks.
And potentially Bucky Irving would be another running back. He's one of those guys where maybe I play him
as questionable, but now that Rashad White's back, Rashad White's been getting the majority of the touches.
Here's the thing, but Bucky Irving last week picked up let me find his. Yeah, he scored 16.2 points. He had 73 yards off of 13 carries in week 10.
He doesn't get the red zone carries because Rashad White gets those.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
He does get a few receptions out of the backfield.
But now I can see how you got all those guys because you're willing to spend the money, unlike the other people in your league. So I get it; it makes sense.
Dude, I feel bad for
establish that though to begin with. I'm kind of mad at you for not establishing that and making me look like a fool by calling your league a bunch of bums.
Listen, we all take things out of context all the time, man. All the time.
Unbelievable.
I feel bad because there's one guy in particular in our league who we thought coming out of the draft had just done a remarkable job. Okay. Potentially overspent, but at the time we didn't know about Christian McCaffrey. Okay. He drafted Christian McCaffrey. He drafted Derrick Henry. He drafted Nico Collins. I'm trying to remember who else he drafted. I want to say he had Cooper Kupp or Puka Nacua. It's just a killer team. And then a lot of those guys go down with injuries and whatnot. Like, just crazy. And so the guy that had probably the best draft is sitting at 2-9 right now. And what's he
like? Football for you, man. It's a crapshoot. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
10%, less than 10% chance of making the playoffs at this point.
You just never know. It's crazy. I mean, I had Aaron Rodgers and Bo Nix as my two quarterbacks because we're in a 2-quarterback league last week. And I mean, Bo Nix goes off. Aaron Rodgers didn't. I mean, he had his usual because he stepped up in the second half, but still, like the fact that Bo Nix had almost 40 points for me last week when he was doing what he was doing in the first half of the season, like it's crazy. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
fantasy football is a crapshoot, but it makes watching the NFL bearable because the NFL is a bad product.
Yeah. It is. It's just, well, I'll hold some of my thoughts there, but yeah.
I don't know why my internet is so bad when we do these. I mean, it's showing right now that I have like one bar. Am I fuzzy on the broadcast right now?
Yeah, you're a little fuzzy.
What is that all about?
I don't know. I mean, you've got a better camera than I am, so it's got to be your connection. So I'm not sure. Maybe City Centers decided, hey, it's time for everybody out here to go to bed because you got to work in the morning.
I don't know. Okay, we're gonna press pause here, and I'm gonna. Okay, John, we're back recording. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my internet. I don't know why it's so hard to record these with it being such a bad. It says connection unstable. I don't know why. It says.
Oh, we're losing Kyle. Kyle, come back to us. Well, there you go, everybody.
Yeah, I have no idea why my internet's being so wonky right now. We switched over to Comcast, which it's been really good. It's
Mhm.
just whenever I record with you, it's not good. It has some kind of connection issue. Maybe it's on your side. I don't know. It's weird. But
Maybe. Maybe Comcast is throttling it because I'm not on Comcast.
it could be. I doubt
Maybe.
that. But it's just strange. But um anyways, so
Yeah.
we're just gonna go with it. If I get fuzzy, I get fuzzy. It doesn't matter. I'm cutting out the reels though, which have been fantastic. I think looking at our stats from a couple of the ones I posted this week on our YouTube channel, they've actually gotten some pretty good views. I think let's see, um, the one about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs that we did the other
Mhm.
day has almost 1,700 views.
Love it.
So, it's getting there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
we'll get there. Slowly but surely, man.
yeah, yeah, it'll come. We just got to keep doing it. And we appreciate everybody that
100%.
tunes in and we have a good time. And I'm not going to apologize for the thumbnail that I put on our last podcast episode, even though John wasn't very happy with me.
Dude,
So
like all it was like I was itching my nose. That's it. And it was like a split second and just happened to catch that one spot. Like Kyle, I'm pretty sure went through the whole entire episode just to purposely find that one spot and use
that's not
that.
true.
Had
That
to
is
have been.
not true.
Had to have been.
It's not true.
Hmm.
I want to see if I can find it so we can show the people what it was because it was actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it here. Oh, that's episode
Yeah.
1. But yeah, you were pretty pissed off at me for that.
Oh no, I was just giving you crap. Dude,
Here
I
you go,
really don't
everybody.
care.
We're gonna show this
Go for it. Show it.
as soon as it uploads. Here we go. Here's the thumbnail that we put on episode 3. Yeah, look at them things. Look at your big finger up there. Did it taste good when you got it done? Was it a big one?
Um, no, no, Kyle. It's because I didn't have any sauce. I didn't have any sauce to dip it in, you know?
Would you have dunked it in barbecue or honey mustard?
Oh, sweet and sour, man. Sweet and
Sweet and
sour
sour.
sauce.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Little sweet and zesty.
Nice. Nice. So I'm going to
Oh,
Vegas in a couple weeks. I know we'll talk about this before I get there, but going to Vegas to play ball. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't play well when I play in Las Vegas for some reason. I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Is it nerves?
I don't think it's
Like do
nervous.
you like step on those big league dream fields and you're like, I got to do this. This is my time to shine, and then you just like, do you
I
pull an
have no
Aaron
idea.
Judge?
I literally have no idea. I mean, you remember a couple years ago, I was the DHH in our first game and I rolled over 3 times.
Yep.
And I became a legend.
Legendary.
Legend.
Legendary.
So
Oh,
story is,
you're
guys,
that
I
guy?
rolled over 3 times, took
Hold
myself
on.
out of the lineup for that night game. And I'm sitting there in the dugout talking to the guy that was coaching third base of this team. They're from Illinois, so we had
Mhm.
talked about Chicago and stuff. And he kind of asked me, he's like, "Why aren't you playing?" I was like, "Well, I didn't have a good first game, so I took myself out of the lineup." I was like, "I was a DHH and I rolled over." Oh, he's like, "Yeah, we heard of you. You're legendary."
Yeah.
And then we ended up walking that. Robert hit a walk-off homer to win that game
Yep.
too. So
Yep.
um,
Yeah, it
I've
was
never
fun.
lived
That was
that down.
awesome.
Never lived that down as a DHH, and never been a
See,
DHH since.
for me, that's a good story and all, but my favorite though was what's his face? He lost his wallet
Devin,
and
Devin Gomez. Oh yeah, this is
Devin
great.
Gomez. Hey, let's not drop his full name, man.
Okay, sorry,
Devin. Just
Devin
call it
G. Devin G.
Devon. He somehow lost his wallet on the way down, and that caused him to be late because he went to back to try to find it, but then he still made his way down, played a game or two, and then decided to go back. But while he was there, my favorite was the balls hit to him.
No. This is 2 different tournaments. 2 different tournaments. Because
Okay,
he
sorry.
was coming down for U trip, lost
Okay.
his wallet, like left it in the gas station. That's what is that, 20 something miles out of
Yeah.
Vegas, you know, and he was freaking out. Gets to the fields right as we're starting to play. Like I was on the phone with him. He calls me, "Hey Kyle, can you come? Can you come pay my entry fee to get in?" And so we finally get him in. Then we have to have him play left field. He missed
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 balls out there that we would have won the game because we only lost by 1.
Yep.
And then he decides he's going to drive back to see if he can find his wallet. And that was the only game he played, right?
Yep. But then the
And
next one is GSL, the next tournament.
yeah, the next one was GSL. That was the one I was a DHH in.
Yep.
And so we got to our, I think it was our 3rd game. We're playing this
Mhm.
team from Arizona, and he's playing second base.
Balls hit
An
to him,
easy ground ball, just easy, lazy ground ball.
and you hear
And he
him
goes
say,
to field it,
"Can
says,
of
"Can of
corn."
corn," and then throws it into the dugout.
That's my favorite story.
It almost hit me.
Yeah. That was my favorite one because even in like our Facebook Live video that we did, you can hear him say "can of corn," and then all the rest of us just chirping at him. It was great. That's
Yeah.
why I play the game. Okay,
You know,
certainly I
here's the
love.
other thing. The funny thing about that GSL trip too, we stayed in the house. Remember this? You didn't get down there till late. I think it
Mhm.
was like Thursday, so you weren't with us. But we went out to the strip, did our thing. You know, everybody got drunk and did their thing. We walked the strip, and I wanted to see the Bellagio show at night because I'd never really seen it. So we're standing there waiting for the Bellagio show. It's probably like 8:30 at night.
Yeah.
And we get a text message from one of our teammates that's back at the house. "Hey guys, you probably ought to start coming home. It's probably time to get some rest because, you know, we got to get ready for tomorrow." We didn't play till the afternoon
Yep.
the next day. So we had
Yep.
plenty of time. And
Dude,
we're like, "No, we're going to go to Fremont Street." So we went to Fremont Street for a little bit, right? And, you know, we're driving back from Fremont Street. Adam is passed out in my back seat. Okay. I think there was 4 in the back and we had 2 in the front with me. So my middle
yeah.
console was up. And you know, I have the 2 cup holders, you know, the plastic cup holders right there on my middle console, right?
Yep.
And just as we get to where we're going to turn right to get into the Airbnb, I slam on my brakes like hard. And Adam cracks it. Like he wasn't even expecting because he was passed out. He
Yeah.
cracks it. And I couldn't drive because my eyes were watering so bad from laughing so hard. Like
Yeah.
that's how funny it was. And we get to the house, and he's the first one up and out of the truck and into his room. I didn't even get a chance to check with him to see if he was okay.
Dude, I'm surprised nobody stayed with him. You don't want that guy going to sleep after he
Right.
just
You didn't know
cracked
if he
his
was
head.
concussed or anything. And then he was like one of the first ones up and he was ready to go. So I was like, oh, dodged a bullet there. But I mean, it was so
Yeah.
funny. And the worst part is the last 2 times we've been that GSL tournament and then U-Trip tournament, what, 2 years later, a couple years later? I mean, or a year later maybe. He's had the worst luck down there. I mean, he was with you that,
Mhm.
you know, the last time we went to Vegas where
No.
you
Yep.
guys got all your stuff stolen because you were chasing him around while he was drunk and forgot to lock your car.
Right, dude. If there wasn't the police officer there, I wouldn't have freaked out. But he's
Oh,
just like, "I'm gonna go talk to that police officer." Like,
our
please
friend
don't,
Adam. I miss that guy. He's
dude.
doing well in Dallas. I'm glad that he and Sam were down there,
That's good.
but I miss that
That's good.
dude. So
He's probably not doing so well this year because his Wolverines kind of suck. But
it is what it is, right?
yeah,
You have your
yeah,
highs and your lows. So
very
yeah,
true.
I mean, but we have some great times, man. I learned
Yeah.
that one of our teammates, Robert, puts deodorant on his feet. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that? Putting deodorant on your feet? Is that a thing?
Why? Why?
He says it keeps him from being too sweaty and from being smelly. We were sitting in Mesquite for a tournament that would have been like around this time 2 or 3 years ago. Me, Keaton, and Robert, and sitting there waiting for him to get done so we go to the casino or go do whatever. And he's coming out of the shower. He's all dressed. He's got his hair, you know, how he does his hair. He never wears a
Hmm.
hat.
I love it. He's like the baldest guy that spends time on his hair. Like,
I know, I know.
he's
And
just
then he sits down
love you,
and
Robert.
he's going to put his socks on. But before he puts his socks on, he starts rubbing deodorant on his feet. I'm like, you put deodorant on your feet?
Like what kind of deodorant? Like White Stick
Yeah,
or like
yeah.
is it antiperspirant maybe?
It's the white solid stuff.
Okay. Well, I know but whites. Okay.
I don't know
We're not
what
going to
the
be able to
difference is
solve this,
between
but like,
deodorant and
I,
antiperspirant. I would think it's deodorant.
okay.
I don't know,
Yeah,
but
that's
is
just
that a
weird.
thing?
I've never heard of. I know that I've seen ads and stuff for like all body deodorants and like creams and such. I guess maybe.
Yeah, it's weird.
I just
I
wash
don't
my
know.
feet and change my socks. That's all.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna put deodorant on my feet. I think that's weird. Very,
Yeah.
very weird.
Yeah. I
So
agree. I agree. Well, buddy, heading out of town tomorrow.
I know.
I'm gonna
I'm
go.
going out of town Saturday, so I feel your pain. Where are you
Yeah.
gonna watch the
So
game on Saturday?
I don't know. Probably from my phone. I
Well,
mean, to
that's
be
fun.
honest,
You're
like
just gonna play it over
actually,
your
actually,
radio while you're driving?
no, actually, because it'll be it's 3:30 Eastern, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'll probably be watching some of it from my phone. I might be to my destination at that point too. So we'll see. But yeah, big Saturday. So I don't know. I can't remember if I sent you the links and stuff, but it's my little rant.
The 2
Tonight.
tweets that you sent me, one by Spencer Litton and the other one that had, like, a breakdown of something.
Maybe those were other ones too. But one of them I found had was it Joel Platt and a couple other guys from I think like the Cover Three show where they're talking about four specific teams: BYU, Miami,
Yeah, I saw
SMU,
that.
and
Yep.
Boise State, right? And again, it's just like I don't know, I don't know what the who all the committee members are. I don't know if they really watch games. Like, you know, I just remember when like the early years of the college football playoff, like wasn't like Condoleezza Rice, part of the committee. Like I don't know how big of a football person she was, and so I don't know the validity of any of the people on this committee if they're really watching football or if they're just kind of looking at ticker tape or whatever. But they brought up three key facts between those four teams: strength of resume, strength of schedule, and game control. These are all three stats that ESPN has listed on their website, and it went as such. Team one, strength of resume is ranked 8. Strength of schedule is 53, and game control ranking of 15. Team number two, strength of resume 9, strength of schedule 54, and game control 19. Team three, strength of resume ranked 14th, strength of schedule 86, game control 16. Okay. The last team, strength of resume ranked 15th, strength of schedule 76, and game control ranked 17. Okay. So the first team we called out ranked above everybody else in all three of those areas. So some people are like, oh, well, strength of resume, strength of schedule doesn't really speak to everything. Let's look at game control. How were they in those games? And a lot of people were like, well, BYU barely beat Oklahoma State. They barely beat Utah. So we should just kind of chalk those up as losses. Like let's rank them as such. And it's like, well, Miami did the same thing. Miami had a lot of close games that they barely won earlier in the season. And then when you look at anyways, back to the rankings. That first team was BYU, yet they're below every single one of those other teams, including SMU, who they beat on the road. Okay, Miami was the second team. So strength of resume is 8 versus 9 for Miami, 53 strength of schedule for BYU, 54 for Miami, game control 15 for BYU, Miami 19. How can you justify 6 places difference between Miami and BYU knowing that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna really get into that because it's so slanted against the Big 12 since Oklahoma and Texas left. I mean, Miami had to let's put it this way. Miami was gifted a win over Virginia Tech, even though the play on the field was ruled a touchdown, and
Yeah.
there was no indisputable evidence to overturn that. It was overturned, so they keep Miami undefeated in that situation, but they should have lost to Virginia Tech. That's one. Then the
Yep.
Cal game, they were gifted a couple of calls too, which they should have lost. But then again, Cal shouldn't have given up a 29-point lead either.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like Alabama got beat by an unranked
Vandy.
Vanderbilt, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know. The thing is, like people have said, the SEC starts out with like 9 teams in the top 25, and even if they lose, it's not a bad loss. I mean, you see
Yeah.
Missouri. Missouri's looked terrible, but yet they're still in the top 25. That shouldn't be happening. Any other league, that team drops out,
Yep.
right? And the thing is, the way I see it, one, if you're not good enough to play in your conference game or win your conference, why should you be allowed to play in the college football playoff? And
100%.
I don't mean that lightly, because yeah, Georgia's probably better than a lot of teams. 100%, I'll say that. But like, if you're not even going to be able to play in your conference championship game, then how are you going to be able to play in your? Why should you be able to play in the college football playoff just because you think you're better than everybody? If you're better than everybody, prove it. And your non-conference schedules, the SEC people will say, well, they played Clemson. Okay, great.
Hmm.
That's great.
But
That's
then who else
one
did they
game.
play?
They had 3 other non-conference games, and who did they play? Crap teams.
Okay, hold on.
Like,
Here's
give
the
me a
thing.
break.
They've only played one out of conference game, or two out of conference games. Obviously,
Yeah, they got to
the
do
one
it at the
against
end of the
Clemson,
season.
beginnings, and then Tennessee Tech was their second game. Now they have two high school teams that they play
Well, they got Georgia
before.
Tech and another podunk school. But
Again,
what I'm saying
Georgia,
is, like,
Georgia.
Tennessee, who did they play in the non-conference? They played NC State, who we see is not good. And
Hmm.
then they played a couple of podunks where they scored like 70-plus points. They haven't scored 70-plus points since.
Yep.
Like, it's I
One
don't know.
and
Maybe they need to make it a rule that you have to play a ranked opponent, at least one ranked non-conference opponent in your non-conference schedule, and you know, uh, fewer than one. Well, no, how do I say this? Fewer than 2 non-power conference teams. So you have to play like 2 or 3 power conference teams to be eligible for the college football playoff in your non-conference slate.
so, I mean, that's a potential,
But
but
they
I mean,
can't do
let's.
that because these non-power conference teams, they rely on the paycheck they're getting to go get beat down by these other
Mhm.
schools, or in the case of like in Northern Illinois, they're getting paid to go beat Notre Dame, right? So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know. It's so outside of the standard of having the 4 power conference champions and the one highest ranked G5 champion. Those 5 are legit. I'm going to say that every day and twice on Sunday, but
Hmm.
after that, it's all subjective, and everybody knows that subjective is so slanted towards the SEC that the SEC is going to have 3, 4, maybe 5 teams in that college football playoff every year. It doesn't matter what we say, what people do, what things change. It's just not going to happen. So
Yeah.
might as well get used to it, because we saw in the college football playoff when it was just 4 teams that every year the SEC had 2 teams in it, whether it was Georgia, Alabama, or somebody else. They had 2 teams in it, and one conference was always left out. Pac-12 usually, in that case, because it's
Unless it was
cannibalized
Oregon.
itself. But it's just the way the college football world is, because nobody's really stood up to the SEC and said, "No, you're not going to do this. We don't. You got to show us what you're doing on the field." And everybody
Yeah.
puts the SEC on a pedestal. When we've seen some of the games against other conferences where they've struggled, yeah, they've won games, but they're like 500, with all of them combined. So
Yeah.
it's just never going to change, unfortunately.
It would be nice, but it would be nice if they. I don't know. I mean, just you're not going to please everybody. So I get it. We're the outsiders looking in, and we're pissed because, well, we think our conference should have, more opportunity when, in the past, yeah, the SEC has controlled things. They've had very dominant teams. This year, they do not have a dominant team. They don't have two dominant teams. They don't have three dominant teams. They don't have any. But to reward them as such, just because in the past they had an amazing Alabama, an amazing Georgia team that, well, they met in the conference championship, and whoever lost, like, they should both get into the playoff. Well, that's not the case this year.
Yeah.
You very well could have a 3-loss SEC champion, and you could have a 3-loss SEC runner-up, or even a 4-loss. Right at that point, you don't want to, based on history, you don't want to pull away an SEC runner-up, somebody that made it to the SEC title game, and keep them out of this college football playoff. But if there's 3 or 4 losses, how can you justify that if you've got a 1-loss Indiana and their only loss is to an Ohio State? Like, how can you do that? How
Yeah.
can you hold Indiana out from going and doing their thing?
Yep.
Or a two, let's say a 2-loss BYU whose only losses are to a Kansas team, which, again, not the greatest year, but go look at their games. They were in every single one of their
Yeah.
games.
It
It
wouldn't
wasn't.
surprise me to see Kansas beat Colorado this weekend in Lawrence.
I would love for that to happen. That would make things
I
a
don't
little
know
bit
that it's going
easier.
to, but it wouldn't surprise me if it did.
No, no, because here's the thing: Kansas's secondary can lock down
Yeah, and they can run
the
the
wide
foot and
receivers for
Kansas can run the
Colorado.
football too. That's the big thing. Kansas can run the football.
Yes, 100%.
Um, my
What I
thing is,
wish was, real quick with that, what I wish is that the rest of the Big 12 got to see the Ollie Gordon that we faced this year,
yeah,
because that was probably the best running back we will face all year. And I know
yeah.
they're talking about Scambo, or I can't remember whatever his name is,
Catabo.
Scatabo, but Ollie Gordon was Ollie Gordon against us. I don't know what it was, if it was the nighttime air, whatever. He came and played.
They gave him
So
the
yeah, we got to go.
football. They haven't been given the football all season.
Yeah. Well, now we got to go face somebody that has run down just about everybody else. If
Yeah.
BYU stops that, then we're good. We're in a great place. But yeah,
My thing is that they need to maybe do, kind of like what basketball they do sometimes. The Big 12 SEC challenge or the Big 10 ACC challenge. Like, get those games. Everybody plays somebody else from the other power conference. Put the good teams against the good teams, and the middle of the road against the middle of the road, and the lower teams against the lower teams, and go play. See which one has bragging rights in that regard. Like,
yeah,
there's ways to fight this and to make this better, but nobody's talking about those because they're all in love with the SEC. And every year the SEC is going to be ranked in the top 15, or whatever. There's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 teams from the SEC in the top 25. And even if they lose, like I said, they're not going to drop far enough to make an impact. And if they win, they're going to bolt up the ratings. So,
yeah, like Georgia did this last week.
yeah. So, like do
yeah,
something to combat it by putting in place a rule that you have to play 2 teams from power conferences in your non-conference slate, and you can't play. I don't know. I don't, and the SEC needs to play 9 conference games. They have 18 teams, or is it 16? I don't remember now.
Of 18.
They only play 8 conference games, which is detrimental for the rest of the conferences, because the Big 10 plays 9, the Big 12 plays 9, the ACC plays 9. Like, that doesn't make it even either, because you're rewarding these teams for scheduling crappy teams and beating up on them when all these other teams are playing conference games at that point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't know.
some people were all pissed because Notre Dame. I mean, here's the thing: Notre Dame bolted, or not Notre Dame. Alabama jumped 3 spots this week playing Mercer. 3 spots.
Yeah.
And then people are saying, "Oh, it's because of how the other teams play." Blah, 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 blah. Well, did they play really? Did they play a tough enough game to prove that they're better than
Y you know
than
what?
Miami
It's
or Ole
just like
Miss?
college basketball where these teams like a BYU, and I'll put BYU on blast on this one, where they schedule podunk teams, they pay them to come in, beat the crap out of them, and they get rewarded for that. Whereas,
Hmm.
they're sleeper games because they're boring, but all they do is they pad the win column and they get rewarded for that in the net. And it's just that's what football is too. They get rewarded for pounding on bad teams in the non-conference slate, and that's why in Alabama jumps up because they're rewarded for that win and they're not punished for losses because the loss is a so-called good loss. Don't get me started on all this. This is another episode for another day because I could go on and on. I hate it. I hate how people aren't earning it; they're just being given it because of the name brand on their uniform, because of
Yeah,
past success. It's sad and it's ruining college athletics. And it doesn't matter. People aren't going to be happy with the 12 teams that are in the college football playoff when that bracket is finally released in a couple weeks. That's going to happen, and then they're going to recall for, well, we need to have 16 or 32, and it's like it's just going to get worse, John. And I
yep,
don't think I think 12 is fine, but they have to figure out a way to maybe put each conference at a max of how many teams you can have in there, because why should the SEC have 5 teams in there, 3 of which have 2 or 3 losses over 1 loss power conference teams that maybe didn't win their conference?
hmm,
That's not the way this should be.
nope,
Because whoever is going to be in that Big 10 championship, Oregon will be there. It'll be either Ohio State or Indiana, right? And so why should Indiana get punished if that loss this weekend, if they lose this weekend, if that's their only loss? Why should they
yeah,
get punished just because, oh, well, they didn't play? It doesn't matter. They play the teams on their schedule. They're in the Big Ten. It's not their fault the way the Big Ten schedule was put together.
nope,
Okay. And they beat everybody by double figures, most everybody, and did exactly what you said they needed to do to be in the playoff. And you're going to punish. It's just like Florida State last year, where
hmm,
they didn't get in just because Jordan Travis was hurt and wasn't going to be playing. So they thought Florida State wasn't going to be good,
yeah,
which is a load of crap. You never know. That's why you play the game. So if
yeah.
Indiana's
I'm
earned that right with 1 loss, give them that chance. Let them prove that they belong. It doesn't matter what the Vegas odds would say. Let them have that chance
and
because they earned
and
it.
that's the biggest piece right there. Is you've got a schedule in front of you. If you run the table, you deserve the opportunity.
Yep.
You deserve the chance. If there's another team that's 2, 3 losses, I'm sorry, you gave up your chance.
Yeah.
Like I don't care how big of a school program you are. It's not right. Is it going to change? No. We know.
So,
We know the powers that be are going to just milk that SEC cow as much as they possibly
yeah.
can because that's where the money is, that's where the fans are, that's where the best football teams are. Again, all air quotes because it's not my
How are they going to
quotes.
determine who gets into the SEC championship game? Because they don't have the divisions broken down. So, I mean, right now you got, if Texas wins out, they're in the SEC championship. Would that mean that so here's what I don't understand. If Texas wins out, or if Texas wins out, they're in. If Alabama wins out, are they in over Georgia because they beat Georgia?
I believe that's the case. I
But
believe it's
didn't
head-to-head match and
but
then
then Alabama lost to
Vanderbilt
Tennessee,
and Tennessee, who Georgia beat. Yep.
who lost to Georgia, and Tennessee also lost to Arkansas. So if they all end up at 6-2 in who, and then there's Ole Miss who beat Georgia,
Yeah. So
but
if
who
they
also lost to LSU and Kentucky. So does Ole Miss get or do they just go with the highest ranked team at that point, which
no,
would probably be
I think what I've heard and I think a few other uh, conferences are doing, if there's not a clear like, hey, this team beat this team, and it's not like there's another team will to beat the first team. If it's clean cut, then they just go head to head. If it's not clean cut, then they look at like opponents and how they fared against them. That's
So
why.
it says the first one is head-to-head competition among the tied teams,
Mhm,
and then second is record versus all common conference opponents among tied teams. So
correct.
that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar with the Big 12, right? Because hypothetically, if let's say BYU loses this week, Colorado loses this week, both Iowa State and Arizona win, and then all those teams win next week, and all of them have 2 losses, Arizona State and Iowa State are in the Big 12 championship. BYU and Colorado are out because of how they fared against those common opponents. Like, that's insane. It's freaking insane. And
Yeah.
Baylor, from what I heard, still has a chance if basically BYU, Colorado, Arizona State, and Iowa State all pick up 3 losses in conference, and Baylor wins out. Baylor is in the Big 12 championship game at 4-3 in conference right now.
Colorado is at Kansas, and then they have Oklahoma State to finish out their season.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona State has BYU, and then at Arizona to finish out.
Yep.
Iowa
Which,
State has at Utah this week, and then versus K-State to finish out their season.
mm-hmm.
And Baylor is at Houston, and then has Kansas next weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That's why there's so much football to play that we shouldn't keep whining. And I shouldn't say whining. We shouldn't keep debating this because there's so much football to play, and it's going to play it right out to where
Well,
it's supposed to be.
and again, I'm not necessarily trying to debate, hypotheticals. I'm looking at realistic numbers, rankings that all of these guys use from one thing to the next, but they are not using it here with BYU that is clearly has a stronger strength of resume, stronger strength of schedule, and better game control. Yes, they have had a couple close, as one of the pundits put it, too close to disaster of games. Miami's had that. Iowa State had that.
It's the expectation for those other programs, though. Where they were ranked in the preseason. Yeah,
I'm
that's the thing.
sorry, Kalani Sitake doesn't have a cool sunglasses deal,
No, it's about the fact that Miami was ranked in the top 5 to begin the season. That these other teams were ranked in the top 10. Like BYU wasn't even ranked. Remember, they had to play in the ranking.
Right,
So
but here's
that's
the
where
thing.
a lot of that comes from. Then they see that BYU offensively, even though Utah's a great defense, we've seen that, didn't play well against the Utes. They made plays to win the game, and then their offense again struggled against Kansas, who isn't good defensively. I mean, their DBs are good, but you still can score points on them, and we've seen that from other teams. So the people that watch the games kind of take that into account in the rankings, the AP and the Coaches Poll.
But if they're doing that, then they should be doing the same thing with Miami's defense.
It's the brand, buddy.
Miami's defense has been non-existent. Their offense is what's holding them in games.
They can score. They have a quarterback that they can score a ton of points in a hurry.
Because they're flashy, just like Colorado.
That appeals to them, though. They can score points in a hurry.
You can tell if that's the case. You can tell these people that are doing all the rankings don't know football.
Hey, I'm not saying they do. I'm just saying I'm just telling you the realistic facts about it is that they see Miami, Florida can score points. BYU can't score points against a lesser opponent. They're going to put them on a pedestal a little bit higher than BYU.
What I want to see real quick, and I know we're going to try to wrap this up here, but is what would the current rankings look like if we were still using the BCS?
I don't know.
I think I just found an article. Let's see. Okay, so it'd be 1 would be Oregon, 2 is Texas, 3 would be Miami, BYU would be 4th. Oh no, that's the bracket rankings. Let's see if
Yeah.
they have just the
Here's the
overall.
thing, and this is where you throw everything out the window. BYU just wins and they're in. Period. That's all.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
mean,
mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to.
that's the
Okay,
thing.
so here it
They
is.
control their own destiny. You win and you're in.
According to the full simulated BCS rankings, Oregon, Ohio State are 1 and 2. Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame, Georgia at 7, Alabama at 8, Ole Miss at 9, Miami's 10th. I'm a little better with that.
I'm just
I know what you're saying.
that
10 Tennessee at 11, SMU 12, BYU 13th. So at least there it's closer, and Boise State's 14th. That's at least closer.
But again,
So
who's doing that? Like who's putting that out?
this is whoever, like, the
Is it on
BCS
ESPN?
rankings.
Is it on a legit website? Like,
I again, it's not on ESPN because ESPN doesn't track the BCS anymore. This is
yeah,
an article that just has them ranked with the scoring from the BCS. So
yeah. So I don't
again,
know. The games will
two
play
two
out,
week
and we'll see what happens. Over the next 2 weeks, which will be fun. So that's what's great is these are meaningful games late in the season.
Yeah,
So
I love that the BYU Arizona State is probably the most important game this week in all of college football.
yeah, and unfortunately, college game day, college noon kickoff. Even ESPN's
Yeah,
not. I mean, ABC's not putting on their Saturday night game of the week like they should. Even though it's on ESPN, which is great, but still, like
yeah.
that's where the ignorance comes in, like that they have no respect for that game. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's true. It's
All right,
true.
everybody, we're gonna end this episode. We went a little bit longer tonight again, but we had some good things to talk about. So, we'll see if we can get something done next week because John will be on the road. But
We'll get
buddy,
something done.
be safe driving and have a Thanksgiving if we don't, record between now and then. And
Well, hey, have fun out in Indianapolis,
yeah, we'll do. We'll
and
do.
go Purdue ladies basketball, or do we want the WAC? I know
We'd
that
love
you're a
for the
Purdue
WAC to get an
family.
upset because the WAC has looked really bad on both the men and the women's side this year. So
Okay, well,
yeah,
go sports teams.
go
Score
sports teams.
goal units.
It's a shame that the game is on a Sunday because the
Hmm.
Colts are playing in Indianapolis on Sunday too. So
Yeah, that's gonna
never
be tough. But
unfortunate.
well, internet, YouTube, everybody out there, thanks for tuning in to No Sauce Podcast with John and Kyle, or Kyle and John, whichever way you want to see it. We will see you guys next time.
Peace.